VLOOKUPs in a fairly complicated way to figure out how much you owe in tax to the federal government based on your after-tax income. So here's the tax schedule for 2011. If you made up to $8,931, you owe 10% of your taxable income. If you're between $8,931 and $36,247, you owe $893, which is what you'd owe at the top of the previous bracket, plus a marginal rate of 15% on everything over $8,931. And it keeps going like this. So for example, if you made over $183,234 but less than or equal to $398,354, you'd pay what you'd pay for the top of the previous bracket, $44,599, plus a 33% marginal rate on the amount of income you have in this bracket. So how can we lay this out? Well, this is actually fairly tricky. So what I did is put the range for each bracket in column E. I put the top of the previous bracket in column D. 0 is the previous bracket to 0, 8931. 8931 is the top of the previous bracket for the 893001, etc. And then I put the breakpoints for each bracket here. Okay, so notice because we do a VLOOKUP true up to 8931, we should get data from this row. Between 893101 and 36247, we should get data from this row. And you remember that's how VLOOKUP true works. And if we make over 398, 35401, we should get data from this row. So what data do we need? We need the tax rates, which I've written in column H. And we need what was owed for the top of the previous bracket. We'll see why. So here's some examples of how you compute the tax. If you made $20,000, what would be your tax rate? Okay, $20,000 puts you here. So you take the $893 for the top of the what you owed for the previous bracket, plus 15% of $20,000 minus the top of the previous bracket, and that's $25,533.35. Now, what would you owe if you made $100,000? Well, if you're $100,000, you're in 87 to 183,234. Okay, so you'd owe $1,780.87. That's owed for the top of the previous bracket. Maybe taxes are a bracket. And then you'd pay the tax rate 28% for this bracket times how much money you had made in that bracket, 100,000 minus basically the top of the previous bracket. If you made 415,000, you'd owe 115,589 on the first 398,354, which you take 450,000 minus the top of the previous bracket and pay 35% on that. So let's figure out what you owe for the top of the previous bracket, and then our but then your formula is, I should be thinking brackets in the NCAA tournament. Okay, but now your formula is going to involve 3 VLOOKUPs to implement what we've talked about here. Okay, you'll see the first VLOOKUP is going to go to the second column here, and it's going to look what you owe for the previous bracket, which is like the 893, the 115, or 17,887. Then you're going to basically look up the rate for the bracket you're in, and then you're going to take what your taxable income is minus basically the bottom of the current bracket that you're in. Okay, so that's what this formula is going to do. But how do we get sort of this first part here? Well, for the top of the previous bracket, if it's already 8931, is 0. So if it's 8930, that should be 3101, but that's no problem. Okay, then basically what we would owe is 10%, which is this, 10%, times the top of the previous bracket, which is going to be right there. Okay, so we'd owe that much on that. Actually, that might, it should be times D11, I suppose, because that's the top of the previous bracket. But that's okay. It's not going to matter much. Okay, now here's where it gets a little complicated. If we're in the bracket 36,247 to 87,834, what do we owe for the top of the previous bracket? Well, what we owe is what we owed for basically the 893.10, which was the top of the 89.31. Okay, and then we would take basically the difference. Okay, we're in this bracket here between 89.31 and 36,247 because we want to know basically what was owed at the top of that bracket. So we take what we owed up to 89.31, which is this, and then we take the difference between these breakpoints times what the tax rate was in the previous bracket. So here it would be 15% of 36,247 minus 89.31, basically 36,247 minus 89.31, and multiply that by 15%. Then you copy that down, and you can see all these numbers in column G match what you see up above here. So now we know what's owed for the top of the previous bracket. So now here's the formula to get your tax rate, okay, your taxable amount. So you put in an income. So what would this do if you put in 100,000? Well, it's going to try and find 100,000 with a VLOOKUP true. It stops at 87,000 here, which is right because that's the bracket you're in. Okay, so then you're going to look up in the second column. Well, at the top of the previous bracket, you owed this much, the 17,887. And then basically you're going to look up for that bracket, basically the tax rate. You're in this bracket here, so you're going to pay 28%. That looks at 28%. Take your income, and what you're going to look up here based on that 100,000 is column 1. So we do a lookup, returning a value from the first column with a lookup range, which is fairly unusual, but often necessary. So in other words, if we look up the bottom of that bracket, we're in 87,834.01 there. Okay. So now, basically, what this pops out to be, if I do formulas evaluate, well, let's type in some examples. For 100,000, I get the right answer. Okay, now if I put in 20,000, I get the right answer. I put in 450,000, I get the right answer. Okay, so that's working out perfectly. Now, if you want to see how this works, you go formulas, evaluate formula. Okay, so the first VLOOKUP, see, that's going to get the cutoff point for basically what you owed from the previous bracket, 115,588. Then you keep going. Okay, that gets your tax rate of 35%. And now you're going to get how much money you made, and it's going to look up basically what was the bottom of that bracket, 398,354.01. And then basically if you evaluate, it's going to get your tax here. 115 plus 180,000 is what 18,000, which is what you're going to owe on that excess over 398, and that turns out to be 133,665. So that's how basically you can use VLOOKUPs to do your taxes.
Okay, so thanks for watching, and there's a free course, a free 21-day course from Dr. Winston, and all of these videos are coming from one of 3 books. So first, this one, which you can see here at the top of the screen, Microsoft's book, which has 355 reviews, and then it's, let's see, 4.6 stars. It's coming from this book as well, his marketing analytics book, which is down here, and you can sort of see 4.5, or his newest book, his analytics stories book, which is here. And with that one, you can see it's 4 point something, or maybe even 5. I don't think it's 5. Yeah, 4.8. And so yeah, anyways, in the description, there's a free 21-day course from Dr. Winston, or you can go to excelwithwayne.com/free, and it'll be there. But again, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, just please let us know. Thanks.